Comrades, I am Admiral Andre, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Today we're having a look here in the workshop for KSP. I have just uploaded my very first mission to the workshop, and this basically will be a video in which I will be playing this mission. Let's just have a look. If you search for N1, you will find it. There's quite a few N1 rockets here, which is of course not surprising given that it's such a well-known rocket. But there's my modest contribution, comrades. Let's have a look. So this was just uploaded now, and I just added this little note here on the bottom, even though it is in the mission as well. Remember that we are aiming for the east crater, so you have to plan your trajectory to the moon to actually pass over the east crater, because we don't have a lot of fuel on this craft. Well, this is also the same N1-L3 that I used in my other video on my channel. So this craft, of course, there are many improvements we can still make, but I think it's a worthy effort. At least it's a fun mission for me. So let's have a look at this mission, comrades, and see how we go. It would be quite embarrassing if I fail at my own mission, but you never know. Right, comrades, here we are. Of course, the main menu that we all know and love. You'll see that this is version 1.4.4, so this is the newest version of the game. But, of course, it's completely vanilla. I removed all the mods, but I'll put them back again right after this recording, just so that we can continue with our Mir space station. But yes, so for this mission you do not require any mods. So let's, I also just turned up the graphics again, because obviously the Mir station and so on had a lot of parts, but in this mission we only have the one craft, so it's perfectly fine, and of course none of the graphics mods. So let's go, start game and play missions. And of course this is a new thing with the latest version of the game. If you go to Steam here, you can actually subscribe to the various missions and also make your missions and upload them to the Steam workshop directly. So that's a very convenient feature. Let's have a look. Newest. I wonder if mine... There it is, the newest mission on the workshop. N1-L3 moon landing 0000. So yes, let's have a look. Of course, I don't have to subscribe to this. Community created, well, it is somewhere here. There was my first attempt at this, but it is the second one here, the moon landing. So, I'll read this for you, comrades. Comrade, of course, that's my trademark. After years of testing, we are finally ready to attempt a moon landing. Our tests show the mighty N1 rocket is finally ready, and the L3 complex will achieve our dream of landing a Kerbal on the moon and returning the crew safely to Kerbal. Still, do not underestimate the difficulty of the endeavor. Our fuel margins are slim and mistakes will be fatal. However, you can count on the rest of the team to help you along the way. Good luck, comrade. So, I put this on advanced just because I think a rookie will have a bit of a struggle, especially with the fuel margins and all of that. It's quite finicky, this thing, but I think once you get the hang of it, it's not a problem. So, whether it's really advanced difficulty, that's up to you to decide, but I think just so that beginner players won't feel too bad if they don't succeed on the first try. Anyway, so reset this. I have of course done it before, so let's start. Okay, comrades, we're here. Of course, I imagine this is somewhere in the Soviet Union, or at least the Kerbal equivalent. So, the technical briefing. Greetings, comrade. I will give you the technical briefing. Before you stands the pride of our space program. The N1 consists of 3 stages which will take the L3 complex to low Kerbal orbit if your ascent is good. You should reach orbit without using the transit stage in order to have enough delta V to complete the mission. Once in orbit, activate the transit stage to get to the moon and enter into an orbit. Once you perform a spacewalk to get the pilot to the LK lander, use the last remaining fuel of the transit stage to begin the descent. Once you are ready to return to lunar orbit, remember to detach the landing gear from the LK as you take off. From there, it's standard procedure. it should not be necessary to rearrange any stages if my calculations are correct. Good luck, comrade. So that's telling the player, of course, this is not like the Saturn V. You do not separate and turn around, and there's no transposition and docking and all of that. It's only on the return back to the orbit of the moon. So, continue. Goal 1. Comrade, I will give you your operational briefing during the mission. To make the task easier for you, I will break the mission down into steps. There's the lights going off. Interesting, it's the sunrise, of course. Our first goal is to get the L3 complex to low Kerbal parking orbit. Let's aim for 120 to 130 kilometers, so anything between that for the apoapse and periapse is fine. If something goes wrong, remember the abort key is backspace. To jettison the launch escape system and L3 fairings, press the 0 key. So it's obviously up to the player to decide when they want to do that, but I do that around 40 kilometers or so. Do not activate stage 8, that's the transit stage, until you are in the required orbit. Now it's in your hands. So if you do that, it's a fail for the mission, because again, you won't have enough fuel to complete the mission. So, stage 8 is of course right there in the fairing now. So we'll say continue, and of course we launch just to the east here, 90 degrees, and then we will see what to do from there. So comrades, F5, always a good recommendation in any mission. Save your progress, you never know what might go wrong. So, let's go. I'll do my customary countdown here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now this rocket does have a very, very low thrust to weight ratio, much less than the real counterpart, but of course this is my first attempt at this particular rocket, and the challenge here is to try and replicate the 30 engines on the first stage. That's of course a difficult thing, because we can only fit so many in there, and if we wanted more thrust to weight, we'll need bigger engines, and of course then we couldn't get 30 of them. So it's really a very thin margin there, a trade-off. I think also the N1 had another stage somewhere after that third stage, but I was just thinking, no, this is not going to work if we add another stage, just because again the engines will struggle too much, and that will necessitate us breaking from the 30 engines. Anyway, once we get to 100, we pitch over to the 90 degrees, just about 5 or so degrees, and then we hold it there until the prograde, of course, catches up there with us. I'll just move a little bit more. Okay, so it's catching up now. We just lock to prograde. That's all we do, comrades. It's very simple. Of course, it's so tempting to play around with this, but it's just as simple as that. Now, of course, we have a magnificent Ascent here, and the advantage of playing without all those graphics mods is that the performance is absolutely smooth here, so that's something I'm enjoying for the moment. Now, of course, we're deviating from the 90 because the closer we get to the equator, even though we haven't moved that much, the further we will deviate, since our orbit is on an inclination, so we don't have to worry too much about that. Let's just see, it's almost time to stage. Of course, we want to not waste time there. We're not moving incredibly fast at this point. So I think the Ascent looks very good here. Of course, there's 0 mods of any kind right now, so I don't have my usual readouts here. So I'll just go back to the map view. Of course, we have to aim for 120 to 130. You can see all of this in the various steps here. 120 to 130. So you can always look ahead to make sure everything is in order. Actually, we're accelerating quite fast here, I have to say. It's not a bad thing. Okay, I think we might ditch the thing now. So the 0 key. And there we go. We just lose the weight. It makes the whole thing a bit more efficient, and we're high enough to not need those fairings and things anymore. So yes, you can see we're deviating further and further from the 90 because that's just how the orbit works. Just separate there. So this is the last stage we are allowed to use here. We're not allowed to go further than that. So let's just have a look. But again, it's not necessary, really. So just above 120 will be fine. And that's that. Okay, now we just coast to the apoapse. And we still have enough fuel to circularize the orbit here. We also have a little bit left afterwards, but that's a little margin just in case the player didn't have a good ascent there, or at least not as efficient as is required. But we can ditch this thing, but I'll probably use the last bit of fuel. Why not? Have to be a bit more efficient. So let's just plan this thing out. We don't really have to, of course, but I think it is always better to be more precise when you're playing a mission. 121, 127, that's perfect. We don't have to worry more. Now we do have quite a bit of monopropellant here, so I think that will be perfectly fine throughout the mission. But of course we have to keep an eye on this because there is no reaction wheel anywhere on this craft, so it's quite an adjustment if you're used to playing with reaction wheels. So we just get right to the target there. That's 21 seconds, but I think yes, 21 is right. It's for the moon insertion burn that we'll have to make a different calculation because we'll be losing the more powerful engines. So let's go to 21 seconds. Okay, there we missed it a little, but that's alright. I'll just turn the RCS off here. Again, we have to save as much as possible. So we have Valentina and Alexei here on this mission. Of course, Alexei is after Alexei Leonov, and I custom created this Kerbal, but I'm already quite attached to him, so he's probably going to do the landing. We'll see. Of course, it's up to the player to decide who's going to do the landing. Now, let's just make sure this thing stays under 130. A little more. There we go. Perfectly fine. Let's exit here before the dialogue comes up. There we go. Goal 2. Congratulations. You made it. Now it's safe to activate the transit stage. So you see there's a tiny bit of fuel left. That's the little margin there for just getting to this point. Because if you don't... okay, we're drifting now all over the place. So if you don't make it with this stage, then you are in trouble. Anyway, I think we might just fast forward to just stop that motion there. Plan out your maneuver to reach the moon. To turn the RCS off. We are heading for the east crater. So that's an important point there because you have to make sure you pass over it. Otherwise you might have to wait a long time for the moon to move in its orbit and get you over that crater. Remember, making inclination changes now will be too expensive, so we will be approaching the moon on an inclined orbit, of course, because we have an inclined orbit right now. Try to be as efficient as possible. If the transit stage runs out of fuel before you are in the required orbit, we will abort the mission, so it's a fail. We will aim for a lunar orbit of about 30 kilometers. Now again, if you want to see the precise numbers, just have a look. It's between 25 and 35, so about 30 is a good number there. Also, don't forget to activate the lock fuel cell. Now, the lock is, of course, the actual return craft there. The lock antennas are activated with a 1 key. Remember, the lander and orbiter don't dock with each other until after the moon landing, so I'm just reinforcing that point there. It's a lot to take in, but we're making history here. Haha, of course, we're playing on the name of the expansion there. We're rooting for you. Continue. We're still drifting all over the place. That's not so great. But anyway, so press 1 and all the antennas will be deployed. And the fuel cell is in this external area here. So we'll just activate that. And now we know we'll have enough power. So we'll leave this fuel. I'll use that little bit. Now the moon is of course in a good position so that you don't have to wait to get several orbits before you line up with the moon. So that's something I made sure would be right, so we just have to burn and we will meet the moon. There you go, you see, I made it easy. Now, the east crater is of course this giant one right here. We do have a scanning module on the craft in case the new players don't really know where that is yet. Now, so that means we'll need a pretty equatorial orbit here. Or at least one that will pass over the east crater once we are there. So remember, this is not as the moon will be, this is as it is now. So let's just play with this orbit a little bit here. Of course, impacting the moon is not part of the mission here, so just have to adjust things a little. Now, so we still have a minute there. It's a bit of a tight squeeze, I admit. This is something that doesn't leave the player a lot of time, but I think we need to actually move it a bit down. Now, where on earth are we going to end up? That's the thing. I think we might have to make a small change here on the way to the moon. Okay, there's the thing. Okay, so it's going to pass very, very high over the moon, and it's going to be a retrograde orbit. It should pass over the east crater there, but actually, I think we might want to move it back a little bit. So that's how we get a more equatorial orbit. I think that will work. Again, if it's not perfect, we'll just have to wait a little bit there. So this is a very high orbit, and that's a problem because on the first pass, once you reach the moon, you have to be within that 30-kilometer window. Otherwise, we're not going to have enough fuel here to circularize around the moon. So I'm going to have to make that change. Anyway, let's just F5. Remember, save after every milestone just in case. Get the RCS back and we'll just get us on this course now. Just more or less close. So obviously this drift here was not the best thing. I'll have to burn as soon as possible because this calculation does not take into account the weaker engines on the transit stage. So I think we'll just go. That of course fixes the whole thing, and we'll just turn the RCS off. So that's gonna go and separate that. Now we have much weaker engines and the burn time is much longer, so that's a bit of a problem for the calculation, but we'll make it, I'm sure. Let's have a look inside the craft since we have to wait anyway. So there's our brave pioneers. You can see there's a bit of a rotation going on here, but that's because we swung around so violently there. Yes, quite exciting. If only this happened in real life, eh? Okay, so we do have some monopropellant there. Everything is quite stable here still. We just have to keep an eye on this situation right here, at least so that we roughly pass over that east crater. Then I'll have to make another maneuver node so that this periapse here is brought into the 30-kilometer range because it's way too far, so we're gonna have to circularize and then bring that back down, and that's gonna eat up all of our fuel. So time for a fast forward, comrades. See you in a minute. Okay, 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, just have to be careful with this. Now, of course, because that calculation wasn't quite correct there, the orbits deviate a little. It's a bit higher, I think, but of course that means it's going to be lower on this side. It should still be fine. The thing is, now we have to make the final adjustment, so just have to make sure that we get a bit closer to the moon there. Let's give ourselves a bit more time. Right, so I'm not going to F5 now because we still don't know how this is going to go. Okay, let's just see now. If I do that, that's not quite right. So the radial buttons are not the ones that we want. Oh yes, there we go. Almost had something there. Well, I think we might have to wait a little longer still. No, it's actually just going up and down there. Just like with the prograde and retrograde, just up to that point, then we miss it. So let's wait a little bit later in the orbit, maybe around there. It's almost like a min-miss approach now. Right, so what happens then if we make a retrograde burn? Yes, got a bit closer, I think. And how do we get closer still? I think we might end up with this. That's interesting. Maybe we'll make another adjustment then once we get closer. This is only 20 meters per second, and of course in the real world they did have mid-course corrections. Wait a minute, there we go, there's something happening. 36 meters per second. Just bring it down. Again, we have to anticipate the moon is going to be there, but this is still, I think, going to be in line with the east crater. So that brings us down to 500,000 meters. We just have to get closer. So it's much cheaper to do the burn now at that point in the orbit than it is to do it around the moon. Okay, 60 meters per second. Wait a minute. Okay, 30. There we go. Does that look good? I think it's actually going a bit too low on this side. But now the east crater is going to be around here, I think. No, that's going to miss the east crater. Okay, let's play around with this a bit more. We have a lot of time for this, so it's perfectly fine. I think that'll be better, comrades, and this is still within the range that we need. So let's just make the fine adjustments that we need to get to the target thing. Just go back to the normal view. Okay, switch that off. And I'll just, of course, use the time warp trick to freeze us there. More or less. Okay, so 1 hour 42 minutes. Now do not pass this one. Okay, keep an eye on that thing. 15, 14, not going to accelerate now again. We'll just wait a moment. Okay. That takes us quite close. So now we just have to wait a tiny bit and then we can do this burn. I'll just lock onto the maneuver there. So 4 seconds before the node. And go. Okay, stop. Oop, might have gone a little too far there. Oh yes. Let's see if we can use the RCS to fix that. There we go. So I hope this will bring us there. If not, then we'll just have to wait a bit in the orbit of the moon. Of course, we are allowed to go back to the tracking station. Now, our current orbit is actually, well, it's perfectly fine there. If we do not actually get into a parking orbit, we'll just swing around. We won't actually re-enter at any point. So, comrades, time to fast forward again. See you in a minute. Goal 3, comrade, we see you have reached the moon. Well done. Remember, we're aiming for a relatively low orbit, about 30 kilometers. Continue. So just a little message there telling the player, well done. I think let's plan this thing out. It's better to do that again. Just say add maneuver. So are we more or less over the crater? Maybe we missed it a little. That's okay. Let's see, can we actually make it change at this point, or is it necessary? We actually will touch the top of the crater. It's fine. So just go retro here and make sure again it's around 30. Too much. 29, 30, perfectly fine. So this will be a 42-second burn. So this is again where the very slim fuel margins come in. I'll just prepare now by getting us pointing the right way. Still have lots and lots of monopropellant. We only have a few essential ports there, so that's why we don't burn it that quickly. At this point I'm leaving the shroud on for the lander there because it's not needed yet, so obviously we want to protect it for as long as possible. Go on, go on. Of course we have all the time in the world now. I'll just fast forward. Let's go. Now again, this is something we don't want to overshoot here. Hey, take your own advice, good grief. Always so tempted to just go a little faster there. Okay, let's turn the lights on. So they are now on the dark side of the moon here. Turn the RCS off. No communication with the motherland. So this is 21 seconds again, just like when we entered into orbit around Kerbal. How interesting. Right, I'll just say retrograde and burn. Now we do want a little bit of fuel left in this stage to actually deorbit the lander, so that's again why we have to be a bit careful here. Here we go, orbit achieved. Now just have to get the right orbit. "15 seconds. We don't need that much fuel to deorbit the lander because it's very light, but still we do want something. Okay, just a bit more and that'll do. Let's hope that was right. We'll see. There we go. Goal 4. Comrade, Gene here. Of course, Gene is the sort of American counterpart, but that's fine. Maybe he's a double agent. Next, we get to the critical phase of the mission, landing on the moon. Once you are ready, perform a spacewalk to take one of the crew to the LK lander. Then plan your approach to the East Crater, our target. Remember, there is a scanning module on the lander that will tell you which biome you are over. Then decouple from the lock and use the transit stage to slow you down. You can deploy the LK antennas with a 2 key. Good luck, comrade. Continue. So, where are we at the moment? Yes, we'll pass right over the northern part of the East Crater, so that's an excellent thing there. Now, since we're passing into the daylight, I think we'll just accelerate a little bit here. There is planet Kerbal with the motherland. Now at this point, of course, we do another F5. We have to save our progress here. And then we separate the shroud. And there it goes. So that reveals the lander there. There's, of course, the scanning module, and it's telling us we're over the Midlands now. So, comrades, the next thing that we want to do is, of course, extend the antennas with the 2 key. And that just brings them out. We could have waited a little, but there's no reason really to wait. Now the critical choice. Who is going to do the landing? Alexei or Valentina? Both, of course, are pilots, so it doesn't matter from that standpoint. But I think let's take Alexei down. EVA. While it's still technically possible for you to transfer the crew inside the craft, of course that's not how it was done. So we just do it this way. Now is that the entrance? I believe so. We see the ladder there. Okay, just get us right and B, and we are in, comrades. That was quite a nice spacewalk there. So Alexei is ready to go, and shall we save again? I think so. F5. Right, so the next step is, of course, just to separate from the lock here. Decouple node. And that's that. Now, of course, we want to switch back to the lander now. Now in this case we can see there's a little monopropellant that was used already. It would have probably been a better idea to transfer some back here. since we are absolutely dependent on this monopropellant. But again, that just tells you to be a bit careful when you're using it. So let's plan this landing. It doesn't have to be anywhere specific in the crater, just as long as you're in the east crater. That will do. So, of course, we want to make it a bit of a smooth landing, so anywhere there, I believe. So this is our initial descent burn. So I hope we'll be able to do this with the transit stage here, but we should be fine. Now let's see, RCS, of course, if I just say target now or maneuver, nothing happens, so we need the RCS. But a trick here, actually a very important one, is to use this caps lock. You see everything turns blue down here. Of course, all the veterans will know this. That just means that we're using less monopropellant because it's on fine controls. You'll actually see that the rate of use is less than if you had it on sort of full control there. But it's not necessary to have full control because we are a very light craft here. And just remember to turn off the RCS because it will try and fight itself the whole time. So now we just wait. It's just a waiting game now, and there goes Valentina. She will of course be observing everything from orbit here. Now we have a not available burn time here. Strange, I guess it's because of the recalculation, but it will come back as soon as we are burning, I believe. But as long as we are relatively near the retrograde marker, we'll be fine. Okay, I think we can switch to the free camera now, since our frame of reference is the moon here. 1 minute, probably 30 seconds will be fine. Okay, right around now. What do you know, more or less. Okay, I'll just lock us to retrograde, otherwise the thing might swing around as we get close to the 0 mark there. We still have fuel. That'll do, that'll do. Still have a little bit left. So we're definitely going to the crater now. Of course, I'm not going to save anything at this point. We still don't know how it's going to turn out. Now, I think... let's just have a look. Where is it that we want to land? Now, of course, we make another landing maneuver here. Something like that. So we burn off the Delta V in stages here. Let's just see, we can wait a little bit. I'm not going to use the RCS for this. It will correct itself, of course. There we go. So this transit stage is now empty, so we get rid of it and we ignite the engine. There it goes, so it at least gets rid of the space debris as well. I guess now we just wait. We of course extend the landing gear and we can have a look inside. So of course if you want to have a look right directly level, you'll look out here. Where's the other viewports? There's another one. I think we just have the 2 here. Well, that's perfectly fine. This is of course just the Vostok capsule or the Onion. Now, where are we going? Let's see, 140 meters per second. I think we might wait a little bit more. That's another 106. I like to do it in stages just because I don't have our full information here from all the mods. And this is a generally good way to approach it. You take a very cautious approach. There we go, to the burn. And we don't have to burn everything off, that's fine. Just again taking the edge off there. Then I'm so tempted to F5 this, but I'm not going to do that. So how long do we have? About 45 seconds there. So I guess at this point we just admire the view. Of course, if we want to make sure that we're over the right place, we just have a look there. East crater. I think we should probably burn a little just to get this thing slowing down. There's the transit stage hitting. Of course, it's easy to get so used to having all the mods tell you the altitude above the terrain here. Okay, let's just slow it down to around 80 and then burn very little here, just so we don't accelerate. What does the readout say inside the craft? We are just around the 3000 mark, so we're about 2.2 kilometers out here on this meter, just giving us a bit of a hint there. It's about 2 kilometers up. Okay, let's just take more edge off here. I think we'll make it. We'll have more than half of our fuel left, which is of course what we want. Okay, now we just keep it relatively stable. And there's the shadow, so let's see, how are we doing now? 5400, so yes, a bit more than 2 out here, anyway. So I'm not using the RCS at this point, I don't think it's necessary. Okay, we can slow down a bit more. Of course, now the closer we get, the more we'll tend to wobble as we follow the retrograde. So I'm gonna lock it. Stability assist. Okay, we're almost there. That's a 1 point something meter per second landing. We made it, comrades. That was actually a textbook landing there. Goal 5. This is Kerbal. We read you, comrade. We are ecstatic. We knew you could do it. When you are ready, you can run the various science experiments attached to the lander. Of course, you would do that in real life. And perform a short EVA. Plant a flag and collect some soil samples. Now, that soil sample thing is not mandatory, but of course you would do it just because. Once you're done, get back into the lander. We can't stay long. The LK was not designed for long duration missions, which is of course how it was in real life. So turn the SAS off. We do not need it. We do not have a fuel cell here, so we will run out of power at some point, but we haven't actually used any at the moment. So we'll run all the experiments, log the seismic data. I'll keep all of this instead of transmitting it. The legs are shifting around a bit. Atmospheric tests there, gravity data, and temperature. Of course, all the standard things you would do. Then, of course, also a crew report. Why not? And then it's time to get out. EVA. So we just follow this thing, the ladder does work there, and then spacebar, and we are on the moon, comrades. The motherland is victorious, of course it is. So there we are, comrades, fantastic, wonderful. Now let's take a soil sample, and from the east crater, of course. We can also collect the various science experiments, but let's do that when we are ready to return. Just put a flag here. Of course, you can name it whatever you like. Of course, the red flag. So the site name doesn't matter. I'll say East Crater. And the motherland is victorious. There we go. Of course it is. So, comrades, now I think we're ready to return. Of course, we can spend a little bit more time here. We anyway have to wait for the locked or to come around, but actually because we are on an inclined orbit here, the longer we wait, the more out of sync we will become. So we can actually launch now, and then of course we'll just use our altitude to sort of arrange another encounter. So I think that's it. We're coming back. The motherland proved its point here, and I'll just gather the various things because we are leaving this behind. Of course, we have to dump as much weight as possible. Okay, and of course an EVA report. Why not? Suddenly you feel very small. So there is Kerbal cheering us on. And we just get back into the craft. Board. Great work, comrade. Now remember to detach the LK landing gear when you take off. Good luck with the docking. We are counting on you. So in this case I will F5 since we have made it. And that's that, I guess. Now let's just see if we can bring ourselves a bit more upright. Maybe it's because of all the weight on this side. I'm not sure. Anyway. Yes, so I think let's do the target thing anyway. Now, this is telling us it's, of course, a retrograde target, so I'll have to aim there between 225 and 270. SAS on, and we did save it, so let's go. Of course, you have to just press spacebar there as soon as the engine is burning, so you can leave that thing behind there. Now we just use the target to guide us. And that's it. Very, very short visit, of course, but a worthy one. So now, of course, we're aiming for the 30, and because we're way behind the target now, we are going to go for a much lower orbit to catch up with it. Around 10, or it doesn't matter, we can go a bit higher, just so we can time warp a bit faster. Just check your ascending nodes and all of that. Make it easier on yourself, and cut the engine. 14 is fine. So we're on our way, comrades. That's that. That's that. We didn't even look out the window there, but of course you do get a little bit of a view. Not the most detailed, but at least you can see it. Right, so now once we get to the Apple apps, I'm just going to plan this out. Always prudent to do that. Now you can see it's going to take a little time for us to catch up to the target there. So 13 by 14 is just fine, so we're about half the altitude of the target. And I think I'll just wait now. Let's get a bit closer. Right, so of course, too late again. There we go. It doesn't matter too much here though if we're a bit late. So turn the RCS back off. I haven't used that much, but even a little is putting us in jeopardy there. Just to prograde. Oh, too much. Okay, let's see. Where did we end up? Just remove everything. 14 by 19. That's fine, comrades. Now we just fast forward. Of course, we can't go more than 50 at this altitude, so we might actually switch to the N1 for this. But of course, F5 again. Still have enough fuel to do this. It's gonna take a little while. I'll fast forward this, comrades. See you in a moment. Okay, comrades, I just switched to the N1 so we could get that 100 speed fast forward. Now let's just see if we maneuver this now. I think we might actually wait a little longer. Yes, we're a little out still. That's fine. Let's just see what we end up with. It would be great, of course, to meet up during the daytime, so I think we might actually want to do that. Let's do that so we burn a bit more then. Wait a minute, what was that? There's a quite close one, 10 kilometers. Just try that. Okay, there it's going back now. Of course, then we'll just use the radial buttons to help us a little. Looks like 9 is the best we can do here. So once we get to the 9, of course, then we can go from there. So this gives us only 3 meters per second, almost 4. Good grief. That's certainly perfectly doable. Now, we're just going to have to switch back to the fine controls here. I'll do this manually just because if we burn too much RCS now, it's actually going to change the calculation. Just because it's so few meters per second there. And Alexei has been out for 2 hours, so that's not that long. But there is the craft to take us back home. I have to say it's a fun little mission, at least I think so. Right, just more or less here. We're still a few minutes out. Now I can just lock it there and fast forward. This is going to be very quick, so we can get right up to the 0 mark almost. Okay, it's just going to do it slowly. And that should do 0.1 meters per second. So we are 9.9 meters or kilometers out there. What happens here if I play around with it a bit more? No, let's just get to that point. So I'll just say fast forward. Warp there. So fuel here is now not a problem. Of course, if you're not very efficient with your landing or ascent, then you're going to have a problem. But once you're in orbit, it's so little delta V that you need, so it's really not an issue. Right, so retrograde. And just turn that back to normal. Of course, now we're just going to push the retrograde onto the target. Or the retrograde of the target. Okay, where does that leave us? Doesn't actually say. Well, let's see what happens. Oh, it's because it shifts to the equator there. So we don't want to burn off all of our speed. And now let's just see, is this not going to work? I think we might actually have to burn towards the target, but let's wait till we're closer. Yes, okay, we're already past that point. Let's point towards the target. Just make sure that RCS is not spent. There we go. Actually, no, don't fight me on that. Good grief. No RCS means no docking. Alright, 2.7 is fine. Turn off the RCS. Let's see, where is the target? Alright, we'll be going towards it now. And I think I'll save at this point again, just because we're so close. Now I'll do this myself again because I'm more efficient. You just have to use one puff of monopropellant to spin around. You really don't have to burn that much. Uh-oh. Yeah, if you have the SAS on while you're doing this, it's very wasteful. Okay, we're right on the target now, and the final verdict is 0.1 kilometers. Of course, it's better than having it at 0. So I think once we get to that point, let me do this again manually. Just get us right to the retrograde. We still have 15 liters of monopropellant left. See, we could burn a little bit, just pushing it a bit more. Okay, no more than that. Okay, this should do. Turn the RCS off and let's just wait a little bit. We're not going that fast, so we can get rid of that speed very easily. It's always stressful. Good grief. Right, so yes, we'll pass by it, which is actually good. We don't want to be too close there. Just get us onto the retro. Don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Okay, little too much, but that's alright. So what I want to do now is point towards the target. So I'll do this manually again, but even changing the orientation adds a little bit of speed to us. I have to be careful about that. Right, so we're locked onto the target, so please keep us there. Now let me just play around with this. We still have 13 liters left. Just want us to get us more or less stable. Okay, don't keep changing things. Now we're going to switch to the other one. That will make it easier, since here our margins are not that slim. Now, where on earth is that target? No. Set as target. So we just say, again, I'll do this manually, otherwise it's going to throw us off too far. You see, again, any use of monopropellant changes our orbit there slightly. There it is. Going a bit away from it now. Actually, we can go a bit faster. Because this is a heavier craft, you can even turn off the fine controls. Actually, I'll probably do that. Maybe. Okay. And lock us there onto the target, please. And now we just get the prograde right onto the target and push it forward. Of course, it keeps trying to rebalance itself here. That's the disadvantage of not having any reaction wheel. Let's F5 this just again. I just want to have the free camera again. It works better here. Now this thing is burning monopropellant the whole time, but that's fine. We still have over 200. Okay, go on, turn it off. Let's just get a bit closer. Now the thing is here, Alexei in the lander here will also be trying to keep the target locked the whole time. That's something I noticed. It's actually a good thing. So the more we deviate, the more he has to try and catch up with us, and of course the more monopropellant he has to burn. So let me actually just... Don't do that, just get it gently there. It's very, very easy to overdo this. Okay, we're almost perfect here. Just slow down. You can hear him actually using monopropellant. Let's hope this is a good one. I don't want us to spin out of control here. Very finicky. Of course, if you have reaction control, your reaction wheel, you just maintain your orientation. Now I'm going to save this again. Hopefully that won't be a disaster. Yes, we can imagine the onboard computer is not super efficient. You see, it keeps swinging around and trying to correct itself the whole time. It'll burn up all of your monopropellant if you're not careful. Okay, 0.3 should be fine. Turn off all of the SAS. Let's hope we didn't do that too early. Yeah, that's his correction. So we're trying to correct each other the whole time. Is this gonna work? Is it gonna work? Oh, don't... Oh, good grief. I thought he was gonna fight me there. Good grief, comrade. Exactly. You had us in suspense there for a while. Great work. Now do another EVA to move the Lunar Pioneer back into the lock, and remember to bring the soil sample with you, if you of course brought one. Then release the LK lander, pilot your course, or plot your course, and head back to Kerbal. So let's F5 this again. Good grief, that is such a suspenseful thing. Anyway, it worked out in the end, so we can turn off the RCS now. So, Alexei, you can EVA now, and of course grab all of the data that you have and let go. Now, of course, in the real world, Alexei would have entered into the orbital module here, which we can do. Just I have to remember not to leave him there. I have done that before, by the way. Just put all of the data into the return module and F that one and board. Of course, the reason for this, and I should have exited him from this one as well, is because you don't depressurize the main crew cabin, only the orbital part, so it of course has a lock there in between. Now that's it. So this thing we don't need anymore. I'll just turn its lights off as well, and I will undock. And there it drifts. Space debris, of course. If we wanted to get rid of it, we could have just retro burned for a while until we were on an impact course, and then of course prograde burn again to get ourselves back into orbit. But that's not necessary. This is only a scenario. Now, where are we at the moment? We are coming around this way, so I think it's actually pretty good. Yes, we can just do the burn now, actually. Interesting. So, get us to RCS, to the target. Now we don't need the fine controls anymore. Now, of course, our engine hasn't been activated yet, so we can do that now. And there goes the faithful lander. Let's just see what we end up with here. Actually, just do a prograde burn and turn that off. You know, comrades, I'm also definitely, once we're finished with the Mir station, I'm going to try and make a mission with that. But I think we'll have to make the Buran first. And I also still want to make a mission with our Saturn V and the shuttle that we spent all those hours building. So that will be interesting, I think. It might be a nice scenario there. Let's just wait a little while. Of course, it's not a very powerful engine. Alexei is very happy now. Oh yes, oh good grief, I would have forgotten already. Transfer crew, transfer, and put him back into the re-entry module. I would have seriously forgotten that if I didn't see him swinging his arms there now, so he was reminding me of that. Good grief. Again, just F5, save our progress. Right, doesn't matter where we re-enter, but it seems we're going to be re-entering on the day side. Now, we don't want to re-enter near to the normal space center. Of course, that's the enemy. We have the motherland, of course. As long as we're in the ocean, international waters, we'll be fine. Or somewhere else. Doesn't matter, of course. Right, almost there. Of course, the planet will be rotating by the point we get there anyway. Let's aim for around 30. That's fine, 26. Perfectly alright, and we still have tons of fuel left. Now it's just a case of waiting, comrades, and returning as heroes. You could just have imagined how that would have gone in the real world. Okay, so we're coming this way, and whoa, 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 whoa. Good grief, how high up are we? Okay, that's fine. Luckily this thing interrupted us. Welcome back to Kerbal, comrade. You are almost home. Just a few final points. Before re-entry, be sure to detach the orbital and service modules from the descent module. Once the parachute fully opens, release the heat shield. Then fire the landing rockets when you are within 10 meters of the surface for a soft landing. Remember to transfer all crew into the descent module, because I forgot that myself. Almost did so again. Now, of course, here we do not have displays of the altitude above the terrain, so we're going to have to guess this unless we land on the ocean when to fire the retro rockets. But yes, F5 again. Let's just separate all the things, and we just wait a little while longer. Otherwise it's just going to kick us right back again. Everyone is in the descent module? I think so. Right, now of course we have no further control. I could say retrograde, but nothing is going to happen. It's just drifting now. SAS off. We will of course have the correct orientation just because of our center of mass, so we don't have to worry about that. And that is that, comrades. We will be doing our re-entry now. Where are we going to land? Ooh, want to stay away from there. Oh well. Maybe we'll land in the ocean. We'll see. Okay, fast forward. Right, comrades. Very exciting phase of our mission. So I will see you closer to the ground. Right, comrades, it will be an ocean landing in international waters, so the enemy cannot get us. Our ships are, of course, already on their way. We are communicating with them again so they can track us. And now it's just a case of re-entering. Of course, we're burned to a crisp here, but that's the point. Of course, the heat shield took the brunt of it. And our crew is alive and waiting for the final splashdown. There goes another piece of debris. So yes, deploying the parachute is the next step. I'll wait until about 8 kilometers. It doesn't matter. Now, of course, we also know when to fire the retro rockets. So you really want to make sure that you land during the daytime with this craft. Otherwise, you will have a hard time judging when you're just about to land. And when you have to fire the retro rockets, that's the thing. You need it to slow you down. Oh, just go there, parachute. And this is of course just like the Soyuz that I built, so this part is basically identical. Once it deploys, we'll separate the heat shield, otherwise it will just stay there right now because of the aerodynamic forces. And then that's that. So I guess around 10 meters or just after 10 meters we will fire the rockets. Should open now-ish. Forgot it's actually 1 kilometer. There we go. Fire the thing and there it goes. That thing is burnt to a crisp, so we don't want it anymore. And we're far out of sight of those enemies. We of course don't want to run into them here, so they steal our secrets. And yes, that's that. Now we just have to wait a little bit longer. I'll fast forward this 4 times, of course. Just keeping an eye on this altimeter here. Okay, let's get out of that. Ready to fire the thing. Perfect, comrades, perfect. Just slowing us down there for descent. Ah, that was wonderful, just after the 10 meters, so under 10 meters from the surface. We made it, comrades. That was a fantastic mission. Now, where is our successful thing? Is that gonna come up now? I might have to review that. Where's my message? Maybe we have to recover. Let's recover the vessel, comrades. We made it back home. Of course, we have all the science here and all the things. Now, I'm not seeing the pop-up for the final congratulations, so I'm actually going to have to fix that now. But, yes, oh, final points. Okay, this is the last one we saw. Oh, well, that's a little thing then that's for you to find out what the final message will say. I'll fix that, comrades. Of course, we're not supposed to be here. This is the enemy's camp. But yes, that's it, comrades. There's the mission. Perfect success, and I hope you will enjoy it as well. And I'll see you again soon, comrades. Have a fantastic day.